Jacek, I just realized that we are green as Okiem Kupca channel.
Yeah, between our ears, you mean?
Yeah.
You work long enough for procurement to know that the blame would always come on us. So, just
if the boss of the company drives a sports car or flies a plane, it's called CO2.
Welcome you everybody to the second episode of Okiem Kupca with Sven Schirmer. And then we have the second part of the TCO Talks with Sven Schirmer from Austria Railways. This time around, Sven, we will deep dive into way more complex topics because we will be talking about the ESG, CO2, and how to include those topics into the TCO calculation, right?
And yes. I guess we're going to talk moreover about green procurement. What is green procurement and why we need green procurement and who cares about it? I just need to, Sven, before you start, I just need to say 2 words because I was absent at the last episode. Sorry I couldn't make it. Sven, thank you very much for joining us on this episode. We're going to talk about a real serious topic, but before we start, then we need to describe the reality. I mean, everybody's talking about green procurement, everybody's talking about how we need it, why we need it, what it means, but the reality of most of the buyers, of procurement people, is that it takes so many activities, it takes so many audits, it takes so many additional things that we need more resources. We need support. We need something that will not only stimulate us and tell us that if we don't go green, then we're going to be punished. But if we go green, then how can you help us?
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. Hello and welcome from my side too. And you already mentioned it, it's a very broad topic. So it is not easy to answer, not easy to solve, and it will take every one of us not only to be very ambitious. You need a little bit of ideology, you need a lot of knowledge, and you need a lot of time for really tackling the topic at the source.
Yeah, perfect, because especially we have a lot of time typically at procurement.
Yeah, that's what I first listen to when I'm introducing the topic to my colleagues. So they will always say, no, when should I do it? Yeah. I even have time to finish what I normally have to do. So this is a really serious thing. And that's why it's not very spread in the private sectors, but even not in the public sectors in Europe already. So many companies are still struggling to find the real way to get a progress in this topic. But the one thing I'm always telling them is then just start with the first step. Yeah? The journey is long. The journey will be tough. It will be challenging. It will be a long one. Yeah, we need to go over not years, but over decades to finally solve what is required to do. But we have to start. And when you wait to start until everything is perfectly solvable and everybody can do it, then you already lost competition and you're too late. So start now, start with an easy step. And I will try to help you to maybe identify this kind of step which you can do in your business.
All right, then Sven, what does it mean, easy step? In procurement, there are no easy steps.
Yeah, but if you are already doing procurement, then you already mastered a lot of easy steps before, or hard ones. Doesn't matter from which side you are looking at it. And I would say just to add this CO2 topic is just a little bit more resources to be put in the procurement. It's not magic. Yeah, it's solvable. It's not rocket science. But of course, yeah, it's not very easy to do. But I will try to find something easy.
So the
thing is to identify what you can do in your company and what does it even mean? What do you have to do? What is required from your company? what are the regulations, and so on and so on. But we will cover a lot of this today.
Right. So I just wanted to ask, okay, so what would be, so is my understanding right that we need to start with a vision, with an idea that we actually need to do that? Of course, it will push us out of our comfort zone because we know the easy steps from procurement and we are quite comfortable doing those. But then it will push us out from the comfort zone. Okay, we need to now take CO2 into consideration. Where do we start? What will be the steps in the process? How would you describe the long journey? You mentioned that this will be a long journey. Where to start it, and what is the journey?
The journey was already started in the past in the European Union when they decided to make a Green Deal happening. Maybe you heard of this. The Green Deal means that we try to get down the CO2 emissions in Europe, in the European market, down to zero, or at far as we can go. There will be some products which never can be zero, not even if we find new magical processes to do it. But building a skyscraper, for example, will never be CO2 neutral, or you will never get the CO2 or other greenhouse gas emissions down to zero. But this is the goal, which was already set for us. I think it was 2019 when they decided it in the European Commission, and they gave us a number, 2050. 2050, we have to show that we did everything what was possible, and they said they will punish those who will not fulfill it. So what is dose and what is punishment is not already defined. So we can already or still hope for the better, but always prepare for the worst. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. This is also important. But this is what is already done in this kind of vision you mentioned. So they who dictate us with the regulations, which will then be translated into national laws. They had a vision. They want to be CO2 neutral in 2050, and this is the boundary we are looking at from the outside. And now
how would that affect procurement then? Because yes, we are aware of the policies, and now let's get down to the procurement field. How would that affect us?
Luckily, we are, and this is very important for us to know, for us who are working in the procurement, we are the number one guys and girls which can solve the most reduction of this CO2 neutralization, because when you look from the outside of our company to this corporate carbon footprint, as it is called, then it is divided into 3 scopes. You can find everything of this, what I'm mentioning here, these scope topics, in the Greenhouse Gas Protocol standard, which is the number 1 standard in the world since decades already. They defined it for us. They gave us all the methodologies, how you calculate what and how it will be measured in the end. And if
we can see it on the slide now.
If you take this corporate carbon footprint and these scopes, then there are scope 1. This is the emissions you find when you burn fossil fuels and everything what can be transformed into energy in your company. The scope 2 is everything what is in relation with electricity you get from the outside. And the scope 3, which is the biggest part of all these 3 scopes, is everything what is in your supply chain, in your value chain, before it comes into your company and after it leaves your company. So when we divide this into its 15 categories, they split it into. And when we look into the first and second categories of this scope 3, these are the goods and services and the capital goods. And if you look at a normal company, then around 75% of the corporate carbon footprint are located in these 2 categories. And this means that we, as the procurement personnel, we are responsible for around 75% of the footprint of a company. This means we can clearly influence by buying low emission products and services to
make our
company happen.
Sven, is it so that we are as procurement responsible or we have the influence to change that. I mean, we can say that procurement is, because that's what I hear. Procurement will be responsible for all of that. No, procurement can can implement all of the things that have to be done to be according to the regulations of the European Union, to avoid the CO2. But should it be our responsibility?
No, well, Łukasz, I think, sorry to interrupt, Sven. I mean, Łukasz, you work long enough for procurement to know that the blame would always come on us. So, just...
There are different stories.
I was just hoping that it's different in Austria or Sweden.
Who is responsible for CO2 emission? It's procurement.
Yeah, I would say it's engineering. Engineering is always responsible. Yeah, procurement is responsible when it comes too late, when the product is delivered too late, so that we cannot do something with this. Then it's procurement. But yes, you are right, Lukas. We are only a part of the machinery, but we are the entry point of these emissions into the company. We are not responsible for what is bought, because there is always somebody who asks for a product or a service, and they are asking for a specific kind of, let's say, let's make it easy. We want a big car for the CEO, and he's not driving electric because he doesn't like it. So there will be a big CO2 emission on this car when we buy it. But we are not responsible for the decision that he wants this car, but we are getting it inside, and we are the ones who are able to measure this impact. But we are only part of it. But our obligation is to make all the others aware that they should maybe take a little bit more careful what they want and what they wish for. Because at the end, and this is something we did in our company, we just calculated with the CO2 price we have at the moment and the CO2 emissions we still have in the company. And we are talking about hundreds of millions of possible punishment with the CO2 price, what we have now. 2050, the price will be much higher. So there's a big, let's say, carrot in front of a stick hanging in front of us, which should motivate us to get these emissions down. And we are just part of it.
Right. If the boss of the company drives a sports car or flies a plane, it's called CO2.
Yes, that's very good. We should write this down.
Yeah.
Hashtag CEO2.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Okay.
But it is so that a lot of CEOs will say, okay, now procurement, this is your job. You need to stay green. You need to take care of that. That what comes into a company will be green. That your suppliers, that our suppliers, that our partners are green enough to fulfill all of the requirements. And yet they don't give us the support. Can you tell us what, from the procurement perspective, should be provided by the decision makers to have the procurement way more green and easier?
First of all, let me mention that it only works when you have a cross-functional team. Yeah, means that we are not engineering experts. The engineers have maybe no view of the market. The parts in the company who need something, they maybe have not talked with the engineers, don't have the knowledge of them, they don't have the knowledge of us. So we have to sit together, and it's an iterative process. Yeah? But the thing is that, first of all, you have to know what is the effect of what you at the moment have in the company. Let's talk about the cars, what cars we have, what is the emission of them. And then you have to look on the market, what is available. I cannot wish for example, we in the ÖBB, in the Austrian Federal Railways, we are also the biggest bus provider in Austria. And even if I wish for, I cannot exchange the whole fleet to electric buses and fill them with solar energy. First of all, there's not enough solar energy because we don't have it. The market is not ready for delivering this part of energy.
Especially in Sweden.
Especially in Sweden, now they have they have thermal energy, so they have other things they can use. But even today, winter day, my solar panels are covered with a heavy bulk of snow. There is no electricity for us. So this means electricity you don't have. You don't get all the buses we need. We need over 1,000, and the companies can maybe deliver 20 per year, because we are not the only one who are procuring these buses. So it will be split over all possible buyers in the world. So it will take a lot of time. So you cannot wish for something what is not there, and then you have to use it. And it's not so easy to make everything of this happen. But first of all, if you know what you have, then you can describe a normal solvable path to a point what can be fulfilled. But this takes a little bit of time. We cannot change from today to tomorrow. It will take a transition period, and you have to make change management. You have to get the awareness in the heads of the people in your company, so that everybody always thinks a little bit greener. Not green, but greener.
Yeah, more green. Yeah. We need to work more with the frogs or aliens. The aliens typically are also green. So then
they come from Mars.
Well, anyway, okay. Sven, thank you so much for it. Question. Now we will cut it. Yeah. Question is
just one thing. Yes, I just realized that we are green as Okiem Kupca channel.
Yeah, between our ears, you mean?
Yeah. Maybe so, but Spotify has a green logo, so.
Yeah, that could be. Sven, the question is, how would you like to share the slides? I mean, if you are explaining, because we are asking you questions, obviously, but then perhaps those questions are not in line with your presentation that you intend to share. So how about whenever we get into any question, you may want to say, okay, so now this is on that slide or this is on this slide, so that I would know when to highlight which slides.
Okay, I was already thinking that you gave me the keyword with vision, that you are on the slide with the vision.
That was right. That's correct. But now going forward, should I now ask you for 360 approach?
Yeah, 360 approach. Yeah.
You can ask a question now. How we in my company are trying to tackle this topic from the procurement side. Like
you got it.
Starting to get this.
You got it. So how me and my company are trying to tackle this 360 approach?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay, so how are you doing this 360 approach, and how do you deal with the CO2 emission in Austria Railways? Okay, let's be serious now for a second.
Yeah, of course. This 360-degree approach, like I call it, we are using what is given from the Austrian government to us. We have the luck that we have a good website, but it can be used by everyone. It's called the NABE platform. NABE means nachhaltige Beschaffung, sustainable procurement. You will get the link in the information below the video. And if you look at this, there are 16 categories which are providing already proven information how you can make sustainable procurement in different categories. And you just have to take a look inside. And for example, in the field of, let's say, IT equipment, you will find some information you can just use for a procurement. When you start to make a tender contract document, whatever you want to do, then you can put it inside. So don't have to find the solution all by yourself and every time by yourself again. And in addition with this,
this is impressive. Question, Sven, if I may, this NABE, is this really for Austrian public procurement and every country has one, or is it something that was developed in Austria, but then can also be used by another European countries with respect to the European regulations of Fit for 55?
Yeah. So the NABE platform, they've created these criteria by themselves based on the European regulations and what is required and what is available on the market. So they are constantly checking and making updates to this. It's not, as far as I know, available in other countries. So the Germans are not using it. The Swedish don't have something equivalent, maybe parts of it, but not this broad approach of 16 different categories. But you can just use it, just open it with a browser, right click when you use Chrome, for example, and you can translate it into your language and just use what you find there. So everybody can use it. It's usable in every country because it's a general description.
But is it in English? What is it? Just to getting into deeper into it, what does it contain? I mean, it's some kind of a scope of how to what to do. how to act as a procurement? How should it help?
It's sustainable criteria for 16 different categories like structural engineering, civil engineering, electrical appliances, events, office supplies, furniture, textiles, vehicles, hygiene, food, cleaning products, IT equipment. So everything what is available is covered, and it contains sustainable criteria. For example, if you buy electrical equipment or IT equipment, it says, that's just one example, there are hundreds of criteria inside, that the material inside, which is heavier than 5 gram, should be tagged with the chemical material like PVC, if it's a plastic material, so that later on, if you have the recycling process to start, you can identify and you can sort all of these materials inside of the equipment and make a circular economy possible. So this is just one of hundreds of criteria, that something is labeled inside your computer so that you don't open it and everything looks the same and there are 20 different kinds of plastics and you don't know what to do. Just throw it away is the not sustainable solution.
Okay.
But if you
But
write it down,
There's some guidances.
It's some kind of a governmental support for the public procurement, as I understand.
It's a support for everybody who wants to be sustainable in the procurement. In the public procurement, the companies have
required
to use it in the mandatory way. They are required to do it. And the private sectors, they can just use it as a guideline or guidance. They're not required to do, but they should they invent the wheel. Yeah, of course, yet. But why should everybody invent the wheel by itself?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why I asked the question if it's available for the other countries as well. I mean, it's in English. I can see it here, probably also in German. But then everyone can use that, so you can just log in from your browser and then you can have access to it. And then there's what else is there? There's a toolbox, as I can see, right?
Yes. This is something I recommend every company, that in addition to what this platform can give you, you should also think about what is the sustainable stuff you are regularly using when you make a procurement, if you write a tender. Let's say you are in the infrastructure business and you always build something out of wood, then you should maybe think about some standard or certificate, the wood label, the European wood certification stuff, whatever, and describe it. And so you can use what you once defined in your new documents. It will shorten the contractual creation process a lot. So we have, for example, more than 60 or 70 criteria at the moment, collected over all our sectors, all our businesses, what we have, and just wrote them down. And so every procurement personnel can just look into it, filter the list, find what is usable for this specific procurement, take it out, put it in the document, and they are safe because they don't have to think about what is the legislative way, how to describe it, what is really sustainable. Just use what is already used and what is proven.
Question, Sven. It really is. Well, maybe I misunderstood it, but isn't it? Where is the added value for the ecology, for the green well-being of ourselves? Isn't it that this is just additional bureaucracy that we need to fill in a bit more forms to know what's in my computer and how should I deal with it? I mean, why do we need to do that? Let me just try to be the devil's advocate for a second.
Yeah, what's the added value? Because you show us it looks like on the slide, it looks like a procurement wheel of fortune. No.
Yeah, that's true. It's a wheel of fortune, and you are really right.
What should we do with it, and why should we do it?
Yeah, maybe if we go back 4 minutes or something like this, it's really a fortune what is inside this, because we are on a transition at the moment to getting our emissions down. And when the time comes, I don't know when they start to punish us. Also 2050 will be the last day where we can still have emissions, but maybe already before there will be a date when we get punished with some penalties for emissions we still have. and it's real fortune what is inside. If you just think of, let's say, 500 euro per ton of CO2, which is a realistic value in the future, and a normal company of our size, for example, we have 200,000 tons of CO2 still available, which we don't get away. Yeah, that's just a number of the region, not the exact one. This is a real fortune what is inside. So what is the motivation to do it? To not pay these penalties, to have a bigger benefit for the company in the future, to be competitive.
So yeah, so we have the effort right now. We will not have the benefits right now. We will have the benefits into the future. That we will avoid paying penalties for CO2 emissions.
It's the same as a research and development budget. If you don't make research and development, all the competition is overtaking you right and left. Yeah. And in 2 years, you're nobody on the market anymore. And this is
but it's good to
ecological stuff.
Yeah, but I think it's good to be aware of that this is not something that we would benefit from right now and right today.
Yeah,
it's a long term.
It's definitely investment in the future. And you can, of course, have a lot of discussions with this. I'm promoting this topic European-wide, and I often get what you said, the advocatus diaboli. Why should I do it now? Yeah, there's no penalty at the moment. Yeah, but it's always this approach. Maybe all of us remember when we went to school. Yeah, we don't have to learn until the night before the test, but then the amount is really huge, and the next morning you need some matches in the eyes to not fall asleep because you had to learn 12 hours before the test. So the effort will be enormous if you wait too long. And
Sven, at the moment, procurement.
To finish this thought, but I can already see, and we are one example, but there are others already coming. We are asking the suppliers to give us these CO2 numbers, and suppliers who are not ready, they have already disadvantages to win a contract. So this is getting more and more fierce. So it's really investment in the future, and the future is near.
All right. I just wanted to say that procurement people are used to postponed rewards.
Of course, yeah. It's just a promise, but nobody knows. Yeah. Maybe 2040. Yeah, we put a lot of effort in this topic now, and put millions of resources in it, and maybe 2040 they find out it's a lost fight, and okay, let's forget it, or make it 2080 because in China nobody cared until 2080 to reduce the CO2 emissions. Why should we rescue the world? Yeah, it could be. Yeah, if there are change of politicians, maybe there's also a change of the Green Deal. Who knows?
Yeah, I think it's unlikely. I think it's an unlikely scenario. I think much more likely scenario is that we will deliver. But you're right, Sven. We call it the so-called the last night phenomenon. That this is always the night before the exam. Okay, now it's time to do it.
Exactly.
So
from the other side, we talked about it with Jacek some time ago, that there are superheroes on the world, Superman, Spider-Man, whoever, and category manager is one of the heroes. Catman is one of the heroes.
Catman,
Now getting into Catman and staying with the slide of the 360 degrees approach, how can it affect TCO, or how can TCO affect the CO2?
Wonderful question. So we have to go back 1 week or 2 weeks, whenever you have watched it, our first long episode about the total cost of ownership. If you remember, this is the amount of money you spend for the one-off costs, for the current costs, for the construction costs, transportation costs, whatever. And now, and this is what comes into, we get these CO2 emission costs calculated. So this is something new. Before we invented this process, it was difficult to bring this sustainable procurement really to the number crushers, as I call them. Yeah, the department, the controllers who say, but what is the benefit? How can you calculate it? Why should we do it? On the other one side, for example, all these greenwashing topics we will not cover today, something for another episode maybe. And how can we really measure what we are doing? And this is something we found out when we made this project happening in 2020. we had this first well-founded calculation model where we can include the CO2 emission costs into this selection of best bidders by, then we call it the ecological sustainable TCO evaluation. And so far as I know, anybody can prove me wrong. We as the Austrian Federal Railway, we were a role model in Europe since then, and we acted and still are acting as a pioneer in this sustainable procurement. And the wonderful thing is, because some of you may already think, oh, but they are railway, yeah? No, it's across all sectors. It works for everything, yeah? From the paperclip to the construction of a skyscraper, from the selecting a lawyer to help you with the taxes, for whatever you can think of. So services and procurement of goods, everything is included.
Okay. So what kind of is it now, Sven, on slide number 7? Are we?
Yes. Now you can see if it is overlaid on our video at the moment.
Yeah.
You can see the wonderful, easy calculation model. The formula itself is very easy. Yeah, you just see 4 summons, and they are in a bracket, and it's just multiplied with 1 factor. So mathematically, very easy. From
looks more like chemistry lessons, CGH.
Yeah, okay, we are talking about CO2. CO2 is chemical, but this GHG, this means just greenhouse gases. It's also a chemical process or chemical product. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Another topic for another lesson. But they're just calculated in metric tons of CO2. And how to get them, you can find in the boxes above. For example, the production phase, we just split into 3 smaller phases, like the raw material extraction, the transportation of all the raw materials from one factory to another until it comes to the final manufacturing company, the producer who makes out of the metal of the car, for example.
Whatever the raw material is, yes, the final assembly or the final product. So, but a question, if I may just interrupt you. So when we have this production here broken down, this is not the cost breakdown, this is the CO2 emission breakdown. Yeah. Am I right?
This is the first step, is that you have to measure the amount of CO2 gases, or as we call them, the greenhouse gases, because sometimes in your production processes, you're also producing other greenhouse gases than CO2. And in the end, they are all translated into the CO2 equivalent. And so you can just add them up. And in the end, you have the amount of CO2 equivalent. For example, methane is 4 times CO2. So if you have something with methane, then you just multiply it with 4 and add it on the CO2 amount. But this is far too much.
So in this,
you have to notice in detail.
But in this model, you are actually also putting pressure on your suppliers so that they need to check with their suppliers, and then they with their suppliers, because there is the manufacturer, there is transportation in between the chains in a supply chain, and then down to Mother Earth. Is that right?
You are totally right. And when we started this, we were just looking on our first level suppliers, the tier 1. Or the OEM manufacturer, as you want to call them. And they got the numbers for us, and we used emission factors. This is the process of calculating material and energy consumption into the CO2 amount. You need emission factors, which come out of databases from the environmental companies, which can be found in the internet. And if you translate it, when we translated this in the beginning, we just needed the first level. Now we have the CSRD coming into action in Europe. This is the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, and this requires the biggest companies on the market to start reporting the non-financial reporting in 2025, based on the numbers of 2024. And you can now think, oh, I'm a small supplier. I'm not covered with this at the moment. Yes, as long as you are never part of their supply chain, you will not be touched. But if you are a supplier in a supply chain, and the biggest one at the end, you can think of the biggest.
To report that, it will also affect you, and then you need to be aware. Even if you're a small company, you will be affected, and you need to be aware of that. Question then, Sven, the practical question. If, let's say, I'm a small manufacturer and I have some hard, so I know something about this CO2 emission and this fit for 55 European regulations, but then will I get some form that I need to fill in, or do I need to come up myself with the form and report it something? In other words, do I need to be active, or can I be reactive? So someone would get to me and tell me, here is Mr. This is what you need to fill in.
Of course, you can be active or reactive, but I have an advice for every company listening to us. If you were already active before you were asked, you can answer the question faster, and you will be ahead of the competition, because maybe the question is asked to also your competitors. And if you are the slowest to give the answers, then maybe you will not be the supplier of the next level, which is doing something with your product. So it's better to be prepared. And to come to your first part of the question, how to fill it out, how to come with the solution, it depends, because the market, and this is something very unmotivating for a lot of us, is full of programs, of software, of applications, of advising companies. And sometimes you can't see the tree in front of the forest, as we say in the German proverb, but there are some, and I can give you, of course, advice, and you can always contact me for this, but we're not making this.
Yeah, it's a practical thing, so it's good to reach out to you, and then you would just give a hint and advice. Here's the valuable form, or a company or a consultancy company that would help you, that would guide you through the process.
Yeah. Some of them will ask you to make everything by yourself, and then you may be struggling with finding the solutions. And others, like us, for example, we will give you the help of a program where you can just fill out what you already know. It's nothing new what you have to fill in. If you know what kind of material you use and where you get it, and if you know your energy bill and not just tapping into the neighbor's energy, then you can answer the question with a little bit of proof. Of course, everything has to be proven, as we know from procurement. So you have to give us some documents that the technical data reflects what you put into the program. Then you can answer these questions very easily. And it's really not a very high wall you have to climb over. Of course, some of you will struggle because you have these numbers not ready, and I have
it will take some time to get the numbers. It will take some time to get the numbers, but at least you will be somehow already in that process. So it will not take you by surprise. And whenever you get the next RFP from your customer, and if just mid-size or small company, it will not take you by surprise. You will be, like you mentioned, a few steps ahead, and then you may respond to that RFP faster than your competitors. And that's already a good motivator, I hope.
All right. Yes, so this calculation model should help the procurement people to get ready for the questions that they may receive. Let's treat it like a guideline for now to be prepared.
Yeah, it's to get a more information, an overview of the topic. It will not help you. It will help you to understand the topic. So if you see on this in these boxes for production, construction, operation, what is inside, you will get a feeling what you should be prepared to do. But my advice is there are some programs on the market, and I can advise any one of you if you contact me about this, which are already able to help you depending on what kind of business you are working in. There's not something what is helping everyone for every situation. What we have invented, it is so general, it could help every one of you, but it is not something we can openly deliver to anyone. So it's difficult, but I have advice for anybody of you, and it is manageable.
And that could be very good advice. That could be, I mean, thank you so much, Sven. I'm pretty much sure some people would reach out to you for your support.
Please do it.
Question here. So we have the pattern, we have the formula here, production, construction, operations, and then there is this mysterious M at the very back end.
Yeah.
So
the M is the so-called monetization factor. And as you can see in the legend below, it is not harmonized in the European Union. And this leads over to the next slide, because this M is something which could influence your future. If I'm talking about you, it's you on the screens watching this recording, because this M translates your amount of CO2 gases into costs. And if a company is using the approach we are using to make a sustainable procurement and include into the total costs of ownership also the CO2 emission costs, maybe later also the water emission costs or water usage costs, whatever you want to use, you can include it. Then you can see that depending on which country you are selling your product, it will be valued differently, this amount of CO2 emissions.
Hold on, just a question. Which country you are selling it to or buying it from?
Where the buyer is coming from. So I'm from Austria.
Okay.
We are using the Austrian price because for us, this is the one which the government gives us, and we have to calculate the incoming CO2 into our country.
Okay, so even though the supplier would be from Poland or from France, you will still take, because you are consuming it, in other words,
consume it
in Austria.
Inside our company, the country, and it adds on the amount of CO2 of, in the end, Austria, in my example. So, and what you can see on this slide is that it is, as I said, not harmonized. You will find this color coding. You also see some gray areas. They don't have a price at the moment, so something will happen in the future in these countries. And on the right side, I have written some conclusions out of this, and I think this is the thing for the future when the harmonization is not happening and not asked for and pushed from the European Union, then there will always be a gap. And if you take, for example, Sweden with 115 euro.
Or Switzerland. What's wrong with them?
Switzerland, yeah, same color. They are about 120 euro at the moment, the highest together with Lithuania. Or no, Liechtenstein, is it?
I think it's Liechtenstein.
Yeah, Lithuania is LV. Or Latvia. Lithuania has nothing at the moment. But to come back, or Ukraine, for example, yeah, it's also in a European landscape here in the mass, on the continent. And the difference is over 120 euros. If your product has, this is a normal value, let's say 50,000 tons of CO2 inside, for example, buying something big which runs over...
You would have to multiply it by 120 euros if you want to sell it to Switzerland.
Yes, so in Switzerland, they have to put this block of costs on top of TCO to make the selecting of the best bidder, while the same product is sold into Ukraine, for example, is just calculated with 50,000 multiplied with 0.75 euro. So the difference is big. And on the right side, you will find that this makes a product which is very bad, more competitive in a country with a lower CO2 emission price than in a country with a higher price. So if you want to win against your competitors, an open bid in Switzerland, you have to be competitive not only by price, but also with the CO2. Or translate it into your benefits, your margin of what you earn in the end. Your margin will shrink.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Doesn't it mean, Sven, doesn't it mean that it's kind of a it may be a scary thing in the supply chain because it will mean higher costs. It will mean that, okay, if I can't compete with the price and I have to compete with the let's call it being green, with the green procurement, then I will be looking for some different markets that will accept my products. And Europe itself, or the countries themselves inside Europe, will start to, in Poland we call it to shoot their own knees.
Yeah, definitely. It's something you can theoretically think through, but in the end, and I think this is something because of this CBAM mechanism, which comes in the next year. If a product from the European Union is sold outside of Europe, it will maybe tackle in the future also some taxes from all other countries in the world. Then these products will be tackled by our CBAM mechanism. So this means, maybe you're not familiar with this, so short explanation. Everything what comes outside of Europe will get on top CBAM. It's a carbon tax mechanism. So some additional taxes on top for produced not environmentally friendly outside of the European Union.
Exactly. So if you want to sell to Switzerland, you need to be either green or the companies in Switzerland would have less competition, in other words.
Yeah, Switzerland is not with the CBAM mechanism considered. So
Well,
we look
but
outside.
even if it's without the CBAM, you need to put 120 euros on top of
Yeah, definitely.
your
The
CO2.
120 and also this CBAM on top, this taxes from outside the European Union. This all comes on top. So this means that products from inside the European Union will not be so competitive outside of Europe, of the European Union in the future. So this means that there is only one market left over for them, the European Union itself. And then they have to face these different levels of monetization factors, these differences. So you cannot just decide to sell it outside of Europe, to go away from this obstacle to to go around, to make the shortcut. This will not work. So you will have to get greener, as we
All
use
right.
this word.
Let's move to another slide, to the next slide, continuing the calculation model. The input mask, the calculation tool, and TCO presentation.
This is just a very easy and describing way of how you as the supplier or you as a company could in the end calculate with the model the CO2 emissions. You will have easy input mask where data of a bidder is entered. There will be a CO2 database in the same application for the processes, for the material, for life cycle data. And the calculation tool will then use these emissions and the database and the formula to summarize the CO2 emissions. There will always be a visualization in a graphical way. In this case, it's a donut diagram where you can see in which phase of your life cycle most emissions are generated or piled on top. And this is also something, because here you can see it very in a good way. You have here in the color of this greenish the production phase, and you see that 68% in this case are generated in the production. So if you want to get greener, this is maybe the low-hanging fruit.
Where to focus on, where you can get the most benefits.
Yeah, definitely. Focus on this first. Look what you can substitute. Maybe you can shorten some transport ways. Maybe you can switch to renewable energy, use a different kind of material, optimize the efficiency of your working methods and so on to shrink down this production and then concentrate on the next part, which is then the operating phase. Maybe the energy usage is the next thing you can think about, or you can do everything in parallel, of course. And normally, and in this case, it's 11%, but normally the construction phase is the very, very low part of all three, sometimes below 1%. So if you just think of maybe we should switch from truck to train, it's good. But if it's only 1% in the beginning, you will not reach a lot of reduction of the whole amount of CO2. So this will definitely help.
It's like a cost breakdown. It's just the CO2 breakdown. And then we know where to focus, where is the most of our enemy, and where to focus on to improve first. And then we have this mysterious slide with the total cost of ownership, kind of one pager or overview. I mean, on slide number 10.
Yeah, it's just what at the moment. Of course, these slides are my general slides I use to present our model of the company, and this is just what you will face to when you are a bidder of the Austrian Federal Railways in a tender. This looks like this. This is just the dashboard. It's not the whole application. Just the dashboard. It's colorful. You see, like when you remember the last session, this TCO, you have the different kind of costs. The blue one, the red one, the orange one, the running cost, the one of course, and so on. And green is the CO2 costs, and all of this together is then the total cost of ownership. And with this comprehensive tool, we can include it first time into the existing TCO system. And this is the one sentence what we always stress. Emissions are then evaluated, and if I evaluate something, I can avoid them. Because a lot of companies, and this is something I also want to stress out, a lot of companies think they're getting greener by doing something, but they're never calculating it. And how can you show progress when you don't calculate?
This is, I think it's from Jack. I think it's from Jack Welch. The famous Jack Welch, he said, if something is measured, it's done. If it's not measured, how can you do it? Exactly. So your suppliers are familiar with this form then?
Yeah, we are using it, of course, not every supplier, because we have every year it's about 8,000 procurement acts we are facing, and we only use it when it's something, let's say, prominent. Yeah, it takes time. We come back to our introduction into this topic. You need resources to do it, and some of our procurement guys and girls, they have up to 2, 3, 4 procurements per day in the spare part business. They cannot always do this topic. They have to face other things. They have to get it in time, on place, in the right quality. And here we use it for the big ones. Yeah, if it's a big amount of money or it's a big amount of prospected CO2 emissions, then we do it definitely. And we are doing it more and more in the future, up to 100%. So there's a steep path going on because of the CSRD. As I mentioned, we are required to report it in the non-financial reporting. And we cannot go always with the financial calculation, because you can also calculate your CO2 emissions based on your financial spending. It's a spend-based calculation. They just use the average of your sector, like you're in the transportation sector. Then they know in this country, they means there's consulting companies, the mysterious black boxes, which costs a lot of money. They will say, oh yeah, you're in this business, and with 1 million spent per year, you have this amount of CO2. And now I think that you build a strategy of CO2 reduction on such a number.
Right, but then hold on. I mean, if some mysterious black box consultants comes and say, in your industry, in your country, this is, but then I may say, yeah, maybe it is the average, but I have it measured, and I have a different measure. So here's my number.
Exactly. If you can do it, then you have measured it. Then you are on the, I say, on the bright side. But you can also be on the dark side. The dark side is just not measuring it. They are just making the shortcut work, which is possible at the moment, that you guess your emissions.
But but then you have to follow whatever the consultancy company say. Okay,
exactly.
You need to accept it. Since you don't know it, then you need to accept the average.
And you are caught in their net, as I say, because then they have you on the hook. They will consult you how to get the fictitious numbers down, because what can you say? If you're not measuring, you have to trust them that the numbers are like they say, and you have to follow their advice to get them down. But nobody knows if it's really going down, because you never measure. So based on financial data, this is something of the past. The present and the future is measuring. And measuring works with this, what I've described now. We are talking about. It's not easy, but it can be done.
Yeah. Gentlemen, we will have to come to an end, I guess, because it's all more than 1 hour of recording right now.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Everybody wants to be green, but not so much. Yes.
Okay. Some famous last words. You don't have to be green at the beginning, but you should start to get green.
Yeah, that's a good wrap up. But can we say that going green in procurement is the future of procurement?
If you are in European Union, then definitely, because you will be measured, you will be judged, and you will getting the punishment if you don't do it.
So there is no way out. There is no escape for procurement people. So we need to focus on that. Sven, thank you very much for very interesting approach from the Austrian ministry with the help for procurement to get deep into every category of purchasing. That are some models, that are some tools that will be around all of the Europe, I guess. But what we need to know, what we need to focus on, is that there are some good steps already done, and we can use them, and we need to share them. And that is why it's good that you've shared with us, because I wouldn't even know where to search for that. Right now, I'm going to go to the Austrian website
NABE.
and search for that. NABE.
Yeah, that's also my takeaway, that this is well structured by now. That's also my takeaway, that there was a structure, there was some forms, some process, some approach. It's not that we would start out of nowhere. This is already very good guidance that you gave us, Sven, and thank you very much for it.
It was a pleasure for me to show you the insight and the deep dive into this topic. And just one correction, Lukas. It is not given by the government, unfortunately, as it is mostly the case. They ask just for the result, but they never give you the method. We invented it by ourselves. My project team and I did the work, but I'm able and I like to share this approach and give you the help and advice you need. And yeah.
Okay, just to make clear, that was only the partnership. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sven. Thank you for your explanations. Thank you for your sharing your knowledge, and also for willingness to support and to help others and to share it with some other procurement people struggling all over the Europe with that. If you, by any chance, seeing that video, feel free to reach out to Sven Schirmer from Austria Railways. And that will be your first step in, and then it will be your green light into the tunnel.
And we need to remember that going green in procurement is our future. So let's go there.
Yeah, if we want or not, we have to.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Make sure to subscribe and to smash that like button. And I'm looking forward to seeing you into the next episode. Thank you.
Right.
Well, actually, I was just thinking, a light in the tunnel with respect to railways may not necessarily be the thing you're looking for.
Yeah. This is a famous joke. Yeah. Somebody are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Finally, the railway guys always say, "Well, it's just a train coming."
Models were sorry, and we will cut that out. And